It's the final word daily, and lo and behold, a cricket match has broken out at the Kia Oval. And with me, Cam Ponsbony, is Daniel Norcross. It's brought to you by Westfield London, Westfield Stratford City, and he's going to tell you all about day 3 at the Oval in 30 seconds.
England's borderline contemptuous approach on day 2 has come back to bite them. They are in serious danger of losing this match. In fact, you would say that Sri Lanka are the favourites. After picking up those 5 Sri Lankan wickets early, it looked like they were back on top with a lead of 62. But good bowling from Sri Lanka in good bowling conditions did for England, notwithstanding a quite scintillating, magnificent 67 from Jamie Smith. Thereafter, Sri Lanka, needing just 219 to win, went out and crashed it to all parts. Once more, strangely attacking fields. It hasn't come off. They've still got 9 wickets in hand. They only need another 128 to win. They're going to do it, and they deserve to.
So, numbers to get you up to date on the exact state of the game. Sri Lanka were bowled out for 263 this morning. England took the final 5 wickets for 52 runs. As you said, it was a lead of 62. That's quite a lot in cricket. Then England decided to get bowled out in 34 overs for just 156 in a genuinely... You know what? We'll get to this, but I feel like the second innings display was kind of less bizarre than the first innings, and they're kind of paying the price for having kind of taken the piss, to be honest. And that meant that Sri Lanka had 218 to win. They finished 94 for 1. And they've got another 125, 128. I want to start with kind of the tone of this match and kind of use the word contemptuous there in describing England's display. Something I've been thinking about today is the context of this kind of ultra-aggressive Bazball approach. I know we're not allowed to say that and whatever, but it's ultra-aggressive often, is that it came and originated from a place where England were the underdog. They were 1 win in 17. They were coming up against Australia. They're going away to India. And it's like, you know what? We've been in so much shit for so long, we have to change the state of play and try something new to free up these players we think are good. They've had great success with it, kind of contextualised success, and then now when they're coming up against kind of, on paper, weaker opposition, rather than it's like counter-punching and kind of punching up more to the point, it can come across, and has come across, as a team complacent and kind of bordering on kind of arrogance. And you could say, I know you want to go here, but you could argue, and I'm going to set you up here because I know you're going to disagree with me, had England been less aggressive against Sri Lanka and West Indies, would that not have actually been the truest sign of disrespect? Because then they would have been like, oh, we're going to take it easy. We're going to take it easy on these lads.
No, absolutely not. Because what England have actually done is when they've found themselves in difficult positions this year, they have tempered their approach. This match is a singular departure from the way they've played in the summer. And I thought, I still do think actually, that their approach has developed and grown. I've been very impressed with them this season. Everyone has been, gloom and doom. It's been a miserable season. England are too good. Test cricket's all dying, etc., etc. I think what's actually happened is that a very good England team has played the situations really, really well. We've seen Jamie Smith, for example, in a match, I forget which match, but when England were 4 down, suddenly didn't have quite what they'd hoped they had as a target. Then a 5th wicket fell, and then he realised, I better actually dig in a bit here. I think this was when Stokes was still playing. It might have been against the West Indies, I forget. Must have been, I guess. And so, they've played the situations really well. Here, the only thing I can think of, because I don't think that they are naturally arrogant, complacent, and contentious. I don't think they are that. I think that maybe when you've been here at the ground, the conditions for bowling have felt really favourable. And what's happened is that England made 221 for 3 on the first day, which was way ahead of where anybody expected them to be. Way ahead of where they expected to be, with some very enterprising batting. Great batting from Duckett, great batting from Pope. But then the next day, what surprised me was that yesterday they didn't take advantage of that 221 for 3. Yes, go hard a little bit, but then you lose a couple of wickets, and not so much grind, but don't swing for the hills, because 400 or 380 was going to be extremely challenging. They actually played like they thought, well, the conditions are so good for bowling, we're going to bowl them out for 120. Not as a disrespect to Sri Lanka, but because it's very testing and they've got very good bowlers. Now, it turned out that that wasn't quite the case, because although they had Sri Lanka 92 for 5, they then opted to keep their spinners on for way longer than they needed to. They wanted to do it because they wanted to bring the crowd some entertainment, and that's also part of Bazball, and that's laudable. But there's a middle point. I'm going to come over all Aristotle on your arse now.
Perfect.
Right?
I love Aristotelian analysis.
I want the virtuous mean between two opposites, and so walking off the moment it got dark, going, I don't want to bowl spinners. That would have been curmudgeonly, unfriendly, and a crime against cricket. Keeping on going until Sri Lanka make it to 221 for 5 is reckless and silly and not Test cricket. Pulling out at about 170, 180 for 5 yesterday would have been far smarter. Then, when they come back this morning, we saw how conditions in the morning are really difficult. This time of year, September, we often talk about it. This time of year, really tough. On an oval pitch that's got life in it and they've got bowlers to exploit it. Great. But if that's the case, you end up with a lead of 62. You've then got to say to yourselves, we have got to bat today. Because where we're going to get Sri Lanka, how we're going to win this game, for sure, is we bat the day out. They came out to bat at 1 o'clock or something, right? And they were bundled out in 34 overs. It's like the 5th quickest innings.
Completed innings, yeah. So it's like the 9th of the fastest, quickest of the century or the last 5 years or something like that.
Andy's Osman gave all the stats on this. It's stupidly quick, right? And had they batted for 45, 50 overs even, got themselves a lead of 250, 260, but crucially didn't have to bowl in the sunshine at the end of the day when it's warmed up, when the ball isn't moving around, when the luck is still on the ball. Then they put themselves in a much stronger position. Instead, they didn't play that situation. And were it not for Jamie Smith, with an extraordinary sequence, he's now the fastest non-New Zealander to get 50 runs in a spell. Not his actual 50, but he scored 50 runs in 17 balls.
Oh, amazing.
And apart from Nathan Astle and Craig McMillan and Nathan Astle again and Tim Southey, all New Zealanders, no one in Test cricket has done that. But he was forced into that approach because England had got themselves into a pickle. And it was how the whole of the rest of the game had gone that got them into a pickle, as well as the way Dan Lawrence batted. I'm afraid it looked a little bit desperate, the way Ben Duckett got himself out. And Sri Lanka were allowed to bowl some good balls, which they did. Vishwa Fernando bowled some beautiful left-arm swing. Asita Fernando, Nairi Kumara. They looked like they hunted as a pack, and it also looked like they really wanted to stick it to England.
Yes.
Because I think they felt that England hadn't respected them. Now, I'm not saying that England didn't, but it looked like Sri Lanka were really up for this because of the way England had approached the game.
I think that's something important to note about today. In the context, if you go, it's all a disaster, England have potentially thrown away the match, it was great entertainment. And part of the reason it was great entertainment is because Sri Lanka bowled really well today. The crimes that England have committed are kind of like yesterday's and of 2 days ago.
They're reaping what they sow.
Because, apart from Ben Duckett tried to hoy one early on. Okay, happens, whatever. Dan Lawrence was batting as if a man who'd kind of come to terms with the way he'd like to die.
He looked very sad, didn't he? His eyes had a certain lacrimosity to them, as if this was the end for him, which it surely isn't, because he's been asked to be a makeshift opener when he's actually in the side as a spare middle order.
I think he was basically like, if I'm going to nick off, I'm going to nick off my way, and my way is charging down the track and trying to horn it miles. But that plays into back to your point about the way Sri Lanka felt or appeared to feel about this England team, is that when he nicked off Dan Lawrence, he gave it to him, and he said you heard him say something along the lines of like Test cricket, and basically my non-lip reading ability basically was my guess was him being like, are you playing Test cricket, mate? Like, you're going to run down and try and charge, you got 36, like fuck off basically. And then from that point, like Vishwa Fernando's come on to bowl and bowled a very, very beautiful spell, and has got both Joe Root and Harry Brook wrapped on the front pad, bang in front of middle and leg stump, and all of a sudden you go, oh wow, we're in a game here. This is high quality bowling. This is the moment where the opposition have had their moment, and then that plied into where Jamie Smith has had his moment and batted beautifully well.
Well, this is what's so baffling, because England's most devil-may-care batting of the entire summer has come when they are without Stokes, which they have been for the whole of this series, but Wokes is up at 7. Now, they leavened that with Stokes, Atkinson, Stone, Potts, right? Now, those are actually slightly better. They're sort of all like number 8s, really, in a way.
Yeah.
And so you've got a little bit more depth in the tail, but they were batting as if they were aware of the fact in the previous 2 games that Wokes was coming in at 7, perhaps a place too high. Whereas this game, they've had the weakest batting lineup. You get rid of Potts, you lose actually a very handy batter, and all respect to Josh Hull, he's 20 years old, he's not a batter.
Do you know his first class average with the bat?
No, 3, is it?
3.75.
3.75.
There we go.
So you've now got Hull as well. You've already got a lengthened tail because Stokes is out, and you've now not got Potts. So you've now got the most fragile lower order you've got, which makes you very vulnerable to a couple of good balls taking out your middle order, and they were very good balls to get rid of Root and to get rid of Brook. They bowled well to do that. Now, your opposition's allowed to bowl well. This is my point. Now, and as a result, you kind of thought the approach had to be, I'm not saying you dig in, you Jeffrey boycott it, but there were gaps, there were ones to be got, there were twos to be got, not swinging for the hills up the top. And they swung for the hills up the top, and then they got found out. So, yeah, they reaped what they sowed from yesterday. There were a couple of moments of rashness today, but Sri Lanka, I want to come back to them, were fabulous. They fought and fought and fought today with the bat early on in the day. They tried, but those were the best bowling conditions of the day, I thought. And England had the bowlers to capitalise when they picked up those last 5 wickets. And then when they came out with the ball, they didn't think 62 was insurmountable, partly because they knew England were going to come at them. So, they didn't have to sit there. Years gone by, you watch a team like Australia grind people into the dust. England don't want to do that because they feel that's anti-cricket. It's very boring. Fine. But there's got to be, come back to Aristotle, a happy medium. England didn't find happy medium today. They got out of a bit of jail for Jamie Smith. But then when Sri Lanka came out to bat, what I loved about it was they didn't go, oh, we've got 2 days and a session to get 219. Ollie Pope, I felt, had a way too aggressive field when there was lacquer on the ball. And the ball hasn't done a great deal with lacquer on the ball. You have to sort of wait 10 overs or so for that to happen. I'd have liked to have seen a more defensive approach for the first 10 overs. And as the ball started to move, then maybe bring in 4 slips. We had a lot of slips in place. We had acres of space on the offside. And that requires your debutant 20-year-old left armour to keep very tight lines and to bowl it, just outside off stump and full. Instead, and I don't blame Josh Hull for this because he's inexperienced, he drags the odd one down. What was great about Sri Lankans was they said, right, we're having it. We're having it. We don't care about the slips. We're taking those runs. And they took them with a little bit of fuck you in it.
It's interesting because I was about to interrupt you and be like, are we criticising and complimenting the same approach with different results from either team, where we're going, oh, England kind of went to be mega positive and they all got out and silly them. Sri Lanka came out, they're going at 6 and over. They've got they're 94 for 1 off after 15 overs. I think only Ollie Stone and Chris Wokes went at less than a run a ball in that final little mini session. But kind of to your point, I don't think we are, because when you go look back to Dan Lawrence's innings and Ben Duckett, Dan Lawrence was charging down the wicket. There was the chance of they were kind of actively looking for opportunities or to force opportunities. England kind of strayed from the line. Gus Atkinson, who didn't bowl this morning because he had a tight quad, opening the bowling, was a tiny bit slower. And then when he missed his lengths, Nissanka, who'd been super positive in the first innings by kind of standing quite still and driving beautifully and kind of capitalising on him missing in length, he took the advantage there. Then Chris Wokes had the same kind of problem where after 4 overs, Sri Lanka were 28 for none. Then they go, oh, bloody hell, we've now got to turn to the 20-year-old on test debut to hopefully try and shore things up. And then he goes for a few more runs. You go, okay, we've now got to turn to we've got the lights gone, we've got to bowl a spinner. And his first ball goes, he's 20 years old. And it was basically just kind of all of the parts where England's, I don't want to say house of cards because it's not, because it's worked very well and it's been very successful. But where the holes that you can poke in their side and the things that could go wrong did go wrong, and that's kind of been the case today.
Yeah, they didn't look after themselves. I think that's what it is. There are vulnerabilities in England's side. They've not got their first choice team out, and other sides, when they don't have their first choice team out, perhaps are mindful of that and look after those deficiencies. England don't do that, and it's a good thing. It's why debut bowlers come in and they frequently take loads of wickets. We've seen it with Harley, we've seen it with Jacks, we've seen it with Rayan Ahmed. I mean, the list is endless. It's that kind of positive approach that when people come into the side, you've earned this cap, son, you're just as good as the rest of us. We like all that, we applaud all that. But there was just something not thoughtful about it. And when you're defending 219, and undeniably it was the best time to bat today, when Sri Lanka came out. Yeah,
why do you think that?
Because the sun was out and you've got a hard new ball that hasn't done anything in the previous 3 innings in the first 10 overs.
Okay.
At that point, that's not when you need to give Nissanka, who's a one-day batter.
Yeah.
And he couldn't believe has anybody ever been more generously treated than Nissanka? He got less than a runnable 50 in the first innings, and less than a runnable 50 in the second innings. And I'm not taking anything away from Nisanka, he batted really beautifully. But all he had to do was get bat on ball to score runs, and anything that was slightly wrong, he could flash at, because it wasn't even a sort of catching fly slip. So even if he gets the edge flash hard, it goes down to fielder. That's not there. You've just got a cordon of slip fielders and nobody else, acres of space out.
Yeah.
And I just thought it made it a bit too easy. And I thought England needed to make it a bit harder in that session, especially with the prize. Having got yourself into this pickle, the hope should have been we can have Sri Lanka 63 for 2, 63 for 3 even. Then tomorrow they come back and we have got 2 hours in the morning with the ball with the lacquer knocked off it, with it doing stuff, with it this typical September morning where stuff can happen. Look, and it still could happen, because Sri Lanka still require another 128 to win, and England's bowlers will be rested, and they'll have no choice but to come in hard, because it's do or die now. I say do or die, they've won the series already. I'm presuming, though, they're still desperately keen to win this match and finish the season 6-zip. I think tomorrow will tell, but there have been too many, for me, 30 runs given away there, 30 runs given away there, and yeah, any side will say that when they lose a game, of course they will, but we saw it unfolding in real time. Yeah. You know, on commentary going, is this spin experiment really necessary for as long as it was yesterday? Do you know what I mean? Today, when Sri Lanka went out, this one too many slips. There needs to be one person in the ring in front of square saving for the push and run. You know, it's those little things. But that's us saying this. What the hell do we know? It's Bazball, they'll probably win, and they'll make us look like chumps. No,
I think there is... I'm trying to gather my thoughts about kind of England, and I think I come back to the point, my initial thought, where when it's kind of punching up and going against the grain and they're feeling the need to change something to compete against the kind of opponent that they feel is really challenging them, that's kind of what creates the excitement. What feels like it's happened in this match, or especially after day one where Sri Lanka bowled so poorly, I think it was Steve Harmison on TalkSport referred to the England players as looking bored, that they were kind of like, oh, we can just turn up and win this on autoplay. And they kind of then didn't play the match on autoplay, because in the first innings of England's batting, all 10 wickets were caught. There were like two.
None of them in the ring. None of them in the slip cordon.
Exactly. Yes.
There was the one catch to the wicketkeeper was Duckett's ramp.
With the ramp, exactly. And so you're kind of there. You're like, well, you guys have kind of taken the piss a little bit on this occasion with the batting. There's just that element of complacency, and I don't think that's not to say this England team are arrogant and whatever. I think it's the end of a summer where they've gone like, oh, we keep winning, we're good, well done, we'll get there, and that just kind of, I don't even think it sits poorly with me. I think it's probably potentially it could end up being quite a handy moment for the team where they go, oh, yeah, blimey, actually, like, we do need to keep our foot on the throat.
To me, it felt like one side was playing a test match and one side's not. So Sri Lanka have done everything that they think they should do in a test match. A little bit like Harry Brook, you know, slightly complaining about the bowling it wide of the off stump. Like, yeah, if you're playing test cricket, you don't tell your opponents.
That's their way of testing you.
Yes, because now they'll just keep doing it. If you don't want them to do it, leave it, or clatter it.
Right, Daniel, it's time for a break, and more importantly, it's time for the Final Word Hall of Fame. Ooh. And I'm going to hand you my phone.
So excited.
To have the ad read. Away you go.
Well, it's always my favourite part of the Hall of Fame.
Always.
Angel and Rocket. No, it's not the long-awaited podcast hosted by Joe Angel and Ruturaj Rocket Raja Gaikwad.
Wow.
It's the home of British-made fashion,
what?
Forward sustainable clothing for those 14 and under.
What?
Are you tired of spending hours finding the perfect fit to express your unique style? You judge for yourself. Only for your kid to kill your fashionista vibe with Winnie the Pooh or Peppa Pig branded attire? If that rings true, you're in luck. At Angel and Rocket, now open at Westfield, London, you'll find next season's hottest styles to make sure you've got the best dressed children this side of the Von Traps, and their outfits made of curtains. Westfield, London, home of EL&N, Cameron Ponsonby's favourite cafe.
It is my favourite cafe. I can't wait to visit there. Before we move on, yes. Fashion forward, sustainable clothing for those 14 and under.
Yeah.
Children. Right, Final Word Hall of Fame.
They get younger every day, don't they?
Yeah,
well, fashionistas.
That's no, incorrect. They get older every day, but I'll forgive you. What is your Final Word Hall of Fame?
For me, it's a Surrey pick. It has to be, because finally England discovered they were in a terrible hole.
82 for 7. We haven't mentioned the score.
No, 82 for 7 at one point. And 18 runs were scored in 11 overs. As Jamie Smith played the situation perfectly in tandem with Ollie Stone. There weren't that many maidens in there, in all honesty, about 3 or 4 maidens in it. But Sri Lanka were on top. And England they couldn't find a run anywhere at that stage. The lead was only 144. Had they been bowled out quickly then, actually this game would have been over tonight, as it turns out. But no, after 18 runs and 11.5 overs, Jamie Smith suddenly decided that, actually no, enough is enough. And proceeded to hit an over for 20 runs with some of the most beautiful, clean striking of a cricket ball. Why did I say cricket ball? I hate it when people say that. It's a ball. It's just a ball.
It is a ball. But
it's a ball. Striking of a ball. Happens to be a cricket ball, but just sounds a bit pompous. The cleanest striking of a ball that you can wish to see, certainly cleaner than anyone has managed in this test, perhaps this series. It was beautiful. And I know normally we choose Hall of Fame items as being a bit silly, a bit outre, a bit whatever, but it suddenly brought gasps, and it hinted, more than hinted, at the inevitability of a truly magnificent career for a man who's going to go down as one of England's all-time greats.
There was 2 amazing crowd noises today. One was relentlessly... I don't think that's that funny. I don't even...
Well, I was expecting...
Well, yeah. You know what really made me laugh? You reminded me. I was talking to a friend today, and he was talking about he's got a teammate that when he runs between the wicket, he makes the noise of a car. He goes,
what is that?
So he runs, and I was like, that's insane. But he's like, it's quite funny.
It's insane, yeah. Sorry,
when Jamie Smith was playing his shots, he played one particular kind of lofted straight drive over mid-off, and the crowd were so invested in the innings, they knew they were watching something very special. And on the flip side, when a crowd is... what's the word? That is taken away. The opportunity to see something special is taken away from them. When Joe Root was confirmed to be LBW, but before it was even out LBW, the replay came up and everyone went, "Oh my God, that's out!" And there was just a hush. It wasn't a sigh. It wasn't anything. It was a silence of, I wanted to watch that, but
I know. Well, we were here to see him go past Alice Cook. Well, he did go past Kumar Sangakkara, so he's up to 6. And I'll tell you what else he did, which we haven't mentioned this yet.
Yeah.
When he took a catch, he moved into outright 3rd place in the list of all-time catchers.
Bloody hell.
I know. He's up to 201 now. Just needs another 10 to win.
And
Goodbye, Elaine. I'm so sorry, final word, listeners. We're just saying goodbye to Elaine.
My Hall of Fame, to be honest, I've already mentioned it. It was Kumari giving Dan Lawrence a send-off because I just enjoyed how invested Sri Lanka were in basically just giving one over. You can imagine what they've been saying in their changing rooms behind closed doors, and they are absolutely loving this moment in time. That's been the final word for day 3 of the Kia Oval Test match. I keep on giving them the Kia Oval plug. It's brought to you by Westfield London. It's brought to you by Westfield Stratford City. It's brought to you by the BBC's National Treasure and Training, Daniel Norcross. It's brought to you by Daniel Norcross's trainee in teaching and
trainee National Treasure.
My trainee, I'm in trainership. And that's the end of the show.
Stop it.
We'll see you tomorrow.
We'll
see you tomorrow.
Stop
Goodbye. So we'll talk to you tomorrow as well.
Bye. Goodbye. Let's go. Bye.
Lovely.